MicroStrategy has been accumulating billions of dollars in Bitcoin. The 35-year-old company first pivoted to BTC in 2020, and since then has been stacking stats quicker than just about anybody else on the planet, with seemingly no plans to slow down anytime soon. Not only that, but MicroStrategy's CEO, Saylor, insists the company will never sell, and that the aim of the game is to simply accumulate and hodl. This approach seems to have paid off, with MicroStrategy stock even outperforming BTC recently. Today, we're going to look at MicroStrategy's endgame, how the company's stock has performed, and how it could affect BTC. Before we go on, I need to make something perfectly clear. I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video should be considered financial or investment advice. This is purely for educational purposes and is meant to be used to assist you on your very own crypto quest. Also, if you're looking to trade crypto, then you have to check out the Coin Bureau Deals page. There you'll find trading fee discounts of up to 60% and sign-up bonuses of up to $60,000 on a selection of the best exchanges out there. It's a limited time offer exclusively for the viewers of this channel, so be sure to take advantage of the link in the description while you still can. So, with that out of the way, let's take a look at MicroStrategy's role in the crypto market. If you're not familiar with MicroStrategy, here is a quick rundown. MicroStrategy was created in 1989 by a trio of founders, Michael Saylor, Sanjay Bansal, and Thomas Safir, all three of whom were students at MIT. The company specializes in business intelligence solutions and mobile app development. Their apps can aggregate data inputs to work out the best routes a business can take to maximize profits and boost productivity. Primary competitors include Microsoft's Power BI, Amazon's QuickSight, and Looker. MicroStrategy first began with a $250,000 seed fund from DuPont Consulting contract. The company's growth was so impressive that within just a few years, it has secured a $10 million contract deal with McDonald's. In fact, between 1990 and 1996, MicroStrategy's revenue actually doubled every single year. On the 11th of June 1998, the company went through a public initial offering, or IPO, and during the dot-com era, its MSTR stock went parabolic. For context, MSTR rose from $7 per share to as high as $333 per share in a year, before falling by 62% in a single day on the 20th of March 2000 in what's regarded as the bursting of the dot-com bubble. And by the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, show it by smashing that like button and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and ping that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Over the years, MicroStrategy has expanded into other tech ventures, offering a variety of solutions to aid business models, and recently even expanded into AI, along with every other tech entity on the planet. Anyway, fast forward to 2020 and MicroStrategy makes the move that you're all here for. On the 11th of August, the company invested a whopping $250 million into BTC as its new primary reserve asset. The company noted that declining returns from cash, a weakening dollar, and other global macroeconomic factors were the main reasons for this decision. This move was more important than you might think. That's simply because prior to this purchase, MicroStrategy's business model had absolutely nothing to do with Bitcoin whatsoever. The fact that a company specializing in business intelligence was suddenly looking at using BTC as a reserve asset was unprecedented. This set off a chain of events that can only be described as bullish AF. MicroStrategy suddenly got a load of free PR from crypto news outlets, causing its stock to rally. Likewise, MicroStrategy's lack of previous crypto involvement meant that Bitcoin got a lot more mainstream media coverage, which put it on the radars of a lot more retail investors and corporate entities. Ex-Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey then bought $50 million in BTC through his payment company, Square. Wall Street giants like Grayscale started hodling Bitcoin for the first time ever, and when institutional demand outweighed the supply, BTC's price went bananas. And not to brag, but if you go far back enough on the Coin Bureau archives, you'll find this video where we accurately predicted that this would be the catalyst that kickstarted the bull market. We'll leave a link down below if you are interested. Anyway, since then, MicroStrategy has bought BTC by the bucket load, increasing its holdings by 10x since the initial purchase. We'll come back to exactly how much they've accumulated a little bit later. Now, as you're probably already aware, this buying up of BTC has been spearheaded by Michael Saylor, who, ironically, once famously wrote Bitcoin off as a failure, tweeting in 2013 that, and I quote, "Bitcoin's days are numbered. It seems like just a matter of time before it suffers the same fate as online gambling." Nowadays, of course, Saylor is Bitcoin's biggest permeable, so why the sudden change of heart? Well, as hinted a moment ago, MicroStrategy's main concern with keeping its treasury in fiat was inflation. Saylor, in particular, became increasingly aware that having a large sum of money in a devaluing asset like the US dollar simply wouldn't be sustainable. In his own words, "We just had that awful realization that we were sitting on a $500 million ice cube that's melting." Now, I don't know about you, but if I was sitting on $500 million, the last thing that I would want to do is slowly watch its value fade away every time the Fed's money printer goes brrr. So, why BTC? Why not store value in a more traditional asset, like gold, for instance? Well, according to Saylor, Bitcoin is the new gold. He believes that Bitcoin will overtake gold as the world's store of value asset because, as he says, and I quote, "It's got all of the great attributes of gold, and it's got none of the defects of gold." If you could teleport gold from New York to Tokyo in just a few minutes, people would like it a whole lot more. By the way, if you're wondering how you can trade Bitcoin, then check out our recent guide that goes over just that. There you'll have all of the information that you need to make stacking sats as painless as possible. Link is down below. Anyway, to say that Michael Saylor is bullish on Bitcoin is a bit like saying Michael Jordan once played a bit of basketball. It's something of an understatement. Consider this. On the 8th of August 2022, Saylor actually stepped down as the CEO of MicroStrategy, handing the role to the company's president, Phong Le, while Saylor himself stepped into the role of executive chairman. Why? So that he could focus more on Bitcoin, of course. As executive chairman, not only does Saylor have access to more orange pills, he can also start dishing them out to others. That's because he now spends his time not only accumulating BTC, but also teaching others about its potential, while promoting Bitcoin across numerous interviews, news, and podcast appearances. Saylor often compares BTC to a digital property rather than a digital currency. Specifically, he calls it the apex property in the world and the best investment asset, noting that buying BTC is equivalent to buying real estate in New York City. So this begs the question then, just how much BTC has MicroStrategy managed to scoop up? Well, in short, lots. From MicroStrategy's first purchase of 21,000 Bitcoin in August 2020, the company has now increased its holdings tenfold to over 214,000, which, at the time of shooting, has a value of around $14 billion. With its most recent purchase, MicroStrategy now owns just over 1% of the 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist. Now, while there doesn't seem to be a set pattern to when the company will make its purchases, Saylor has explained that MicroStrategy's strategy to stacking sats is to simply buy, hodl, and then buy some more. As we mentioned just a moment ago, MicroStrategy's first purchase was in August 2020, where it picked up 21,454 BTC for $250 million. By the end of that year, the company had spent $1.125 billion acquiring a total of 70,470 BTC, with their final purchase of that year being a spend of $650 million. Wow. In the first quarter of 2021, MicroStrategy made a couple of smaller purchases of a mere $10 million apiece before making its largest buy to date. The 24th of February 2021 saw the company shell out over $1 billion to scoop up 19,452 BTC. Throughout 2021, MicroStrategy spent more than $2.4 billion picking up 53,921 BTC in total. In 2022, the company slowed down its SAT stacking, spending a mere $287 million on a total of 8,109 BTC. Notably, 2022 also saw the first and only time that MicroStrategy has ever sold any of its BTC holding. They dumped 704 coins on the 22nd of December, which they claim was for tax purposes. Nothing to do with needing some cash for the office Christmas party, I'm sure. Anyway, over the course of 2023, MicroStrategy bought a stack of 56,648 BTC for a total of over $1.9 billion, with some heavy purchases at the end of November and December. By this point, MicroStrategy has now spent more than $5.9 billion and was sitting on a grand total of 189,150 BTC. And since the start of this year, MicroStrategy has continued scooping up large quantities to the point that it now owns over 1% of all the BTC in existence. So far in 2024, it spent a whopping $1.6 billion on a further 25,095 BTC. Its total BTC count is now sitting at a mind-melting 214,246. Who knows? Maybe more by the time I finish this video. And in case you're wondering if or when MicroStrategy will dump all of this BTC and crash its price, Saylor has maintained that he never plans to sell. He has explained that there is no point in swapping a stronger currency for a weaker one, and that Bitcoin is the strongest currency out there. These are truly staggering statistics, and while the average person will be looking to scrape enough Satoshis together to stack one full Bitcoin, MicroStrategy is raking them up at an unprecedented rate. But with the company never selling BTC, not even for a profit, how exactly are these buys being funded? Well, while most of MicroStrategy's initial Bitcoin buy was funded by converting the company's cash reserves into BTC, there have been a few other ways that Saylor has used along the way to help the company fill its bags faster. One method has been the use of collateralized loans. In case you're not familiar with what this means, it's when an asset is put down as collateral so that you can borrow against it. Usually, the amount you put down is more than the amount you're allowed to borrow. One example of Saylor using this method was in April 2022, when MicroStrategy actually borrowed against its BTC to buy a further $190 million worth. This isn't the only time that the company has borrowed money to buy more BTC either. In March 2022, it took out a $205 million loan with the now-defunct bank Silvergate. Unfortunately, Silvergate went under just a few months later, following the collapse of FTX in November 2022, making it one of the first casualties of the 2023 US banking crisis. Anyway, there were naturally some concerns that Silvergate's collapse would cause some serious damage to MicroStrategy, but the company clarified that its BTC collateral wasn't custodied with the bank, and that it was in no way financially linked to Silvergate, other than via a commitment to repay the loans in 2025. More recently, another method MicroStrategy has been using is the issuing of convertible debt notes. Convertible notes, which can be exchanged for shares when the stock hits a predetermined level, offers companies an option to raise capital at a lower interest rate than regular bonds, without the risk of immediately diluting shareholders, as stock offerings do. This allows MicroStrategy to pull in millions of dollars over a short period of time, which they make clear, and I quote, will be used to acquire additional Bitcoin for general corporate purposes. And with the company having already spent over $1 billion in Q1 of 2024, this year is set to be MicroStrategy's biggest for BTC accumulation, assuming the pace continues, of course. And it's all well and good while BTC continues to test new all-time highs and the bull market continues to gather steam. But remember, nothing goes up forever. Eventually, there will be more red than green, which makes you wonder, at what point does it all begin to fall apart? If it wasn't already obvious, MicroStrategy's success is heavily correlated with how well Bitcoin is doing. While BTC continues to rally, MSTR stock will follow suit. Recall that MSTR has actually been outperforming BTC, and this is likely because MicroStrategy acts as a sort of leveraged Bitcoin play, but without the management fee that is seen with the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Put differently, it offers an alternative to the ETFs, and we all know how well they've been doing. The thing is, this demand for MSTR is pretty much dependent on the demand for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's demand was to fade away and BTC's price was to crash, this will not only reduce the value of MicroStrategy's reserve fund, but also MSTR's price. And newsflash, at some point, BTC will crash. I know that we don't want to hear it right now, but eventually the bear market will come back and BTC's price will tumble. That's just the nature of the beast, guys. But if you're concerned about the liquidation risks MicroStrategy could face if BTC were to suddenly crash in price, then the good news is that it should remain very much unaffected. That's because despite having garnered a whole bunch of BTC over the years throughout borrowed funds, the company revealed in an earnings call for Q1 of this year that their holdings are now mostly free from any risk. During the call on the 6th of February, the Chief Financial Officer Andrew Kang clarified that over 90% of BTC being held at the company is now unencumbered and unrestricted. In other words, it's no longer being tied down by debt, meaning there's no real chance of MicroStrategy facing a margin call and having to sell its BTC holdings, else facing bankruptcy. And with Saylor's hands being made of some of the toughest diamonds out there, a simple hodl strategy will mean the value of the company's reserves won't have actually changed. To be clear, that's because it's highly unlikely that Saylor is measuring his company's assets in fiat value. Rather, he'll probably be measuring them in its value by BTC. And unless there's any selling, this won't have changed. But to go back to those ETFs for just a moment, MicroStrategy's appeal for a really long time was it giving Bitcoin exposure to ordinary retail investors who didn't directly want to hold the asset, as in also the case with the ETFs themselves. The difference here is that the ETFs would charge you a small percentage management fee, whereas MSTR stock would just like any other stock on the market. The thing is, in the last few weeks, some ETF companies like VanEck have dropped their fees to zero. This means that rather than using MicroStrategy as a sort of Bitcoin proxy, investors can now add Bitcoin pseudo-directly to their portfolios via an ETF position. This could quickly become a problem because, as much of an advocate Michael Saylor is for Bitcoin, the use case for MSTR stock has suddenly become a lot less clear-cut. That being said, MicroStrategy does hold a competitive balance of BTC on its balance sheet when compared to the ETFs. For reference, BlackRock's holdings sit at 239,253 Bitcoins at the time of shooting, around 25,000 more than MicroStrategy, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that much of a difference. What this means is that MicroStrategy's position should remain strong, and it could even go on to support BTC's price, along with the rest of the crypto market. That brings us to how MicroStrategy could impact the crypto market going forward. And to understand how the future could play out, let's quickly remind ourselves of the past. Recall that back in 2020, MicroStrategy had made headlines as it adopted BTC as its primary reserve asset. Other institutions caught wind of this and followed suit. As it turned out, this was the perfect catalyst for a crazy upward movement that we saw in the last bull market. In today's environment, Bitcoin is mainly benefiting from those spot Bitcoin ETF flows, and Bitcoin is more readily available to an entirely new wave of investors. However, the ETFs aren't the only thing supporting BTC's price. Perhaps it's due to the hype that the ETFs have generated, but people seem to forget that MicroStrategy has also been a big part of the overall picture. And with the company starting strong in 2024, it will be fascinating to see just how much money it spends on adding yet more BTC to its stockpile. After all, this will mean that BTC's price will only see more and more support as the year goes on. Not only this, but now that Michael Saylor has stepped into the executive chairman position to focus on raising Bitcoin adoption and awareness, a fresh wave of investors are about to hear, for the first time, why Bitcoin is so awesome. And honestly, it's hard to think of anyone more bullish on Bitcoin than Michael Saylor is. If he can continue to spread the word, we could see a repeat of the past where other institutional investors begin to learn the value of BTC as a digital asset. If they begin to adopt it in a similar way, this would be rocket fuel for BTC's price. And as BTC's price goes up, so too will MSTR's stock value. This will naturally draw more attention to MicroStrategy itself, which will only put Saylor more in the media spotlight, giving him the opportunity to preach the power of Bitcoin to even more people. As MicroStrategy continues to buy up as much BTC as it possibly can, this will reduce the overall liquid supply of BTC, assuming, of course, that MicroStrategy really does plan on never selling. This means that, in theory, Bitcoin is now more scarce than it ever has been, and BTC is only going to become more difficult to get hold of. Put differently, more demand plus reduced supply equals number go up. And the more value there is in MicroStrategy's reserves, the more can be borrowed against them to buy even more BTC. And so on and so on. Honestly, it kind of feels like Saylor has been given the cheat code to the unlimited money glitch. So with all that said and done, MicroStrategy stands to support Bitcoin more than people may think. And it will be interesting to see just how much of an impact the company will have on Bitcoin adoption as the bull market continues. Saint Saylor's mission to convert the world may only just be beginning. And that's all for today's video, folks. So if you found it insightful, let us know by smashing that like button. If you want to see some more educational crypto content, subscribe to the channel and ping that notification bell. If you want to help others gain some insight into this particular topic, consider sharing the video with them. If you want some of the hottest crypto tips delivered straight to your inbox, why not sign up to our free weekly newsletter? And if you'd like to join our fast-growing community, then good news. The Coin Bureau now has a Discord server with a growing community of our fans and supporters. The invite link can be found down below. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Jessica signing off.